Welcome back to the table. I'm Kim Ganassin, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about what 5D is, except this time we're going to talk about the potential for the destruction of 5D. It's a very important concept, and I'd like to start by telling you a story. This story occurred about, 20 years ago or so. And it was a really rough time in my life, and I was sitting in my living room on the carpet having myself a meditation, and all of these incredible fear, terror emotions started coming up through me, and I was just trembling on the inside, and my mind was filled with terror about certain things going on in the world. And I had a deep, deep sense of my vulnerability, and it just really got to me in the moment. And I went from being meditative on the carpet in a completely awake state, and I launched myself to the other side in complete lucidity and just said, I'm out of here. I'm out of here consciously my way. I'm just going to launch. And I launched. And I made it to the other side, and I was still in my horrified state of panic, and I was hiding behind a bush. There was a bush and a tree, and I was hiding behind them, just kind of cowering and quivering and crying and screaming a little bit. And beyond the bush there was a round fountain and a small building compared to other buildings on the other side. And a man walked by. He was not real tall. He had a fair complexion and light brown hair. He was really, pretty indescript. And he was walking by, and I'm screaming, and I start to come out from behind my bush. And he looks around, and he comes over towards me, and he grabs me by the arms, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And he was quite alarmed. And I said, "I'm not going back there. I'm coming home now. I'm not going back. You can't make me." And he goes, "You got to get out of here. You don't belong here." And I said, "Yes, I do. This is my home too. I can come here." Because I'd been on the other side so many times. And I knew I belonged there. I just had never launched myself in the middle of the day. Okay? So he was telling me, "You got to go. Get out of here, get out of here." And he basically booted me out of the other side in my hysteria. And, at the time, I was just like, well, gee, okay, I guess I made a nuisance of myself on the other side. And I got booted. But there's something a little more going on there. And it involves what could collapse 5D. Okay? Let's look at it this way. Here's the Earth, a very special place created intentionally where all dimensions pass through the Earth, because all dimensions exist everywhere, except that this place, the Earth, was intentionally created for lots of three-dimensional phenomena to thrive, and for us and our human bodies to have brains that are specifically set up so that we can process information in a three-dimensional world, and we see things three-dimensionally, and we experience our own selves as three-dimensional. Okay? We also experience linear time, which is one of the major factors of the Earth. Okay? But the Earth itself is not, obviously, the entire universe. It's one piece of it. Now let's look at the other side, right? The other side. We've got a little twin system going on here. You have the Earth and you have the other side. You have the same spirits, the same souls, the same beings, us, living on the planet during the day in our three-dimensional bodies, and leaving those bodies and going to the other side at night, and being not lucid, but not lucid in the same way on the other side as we are here on Earth. And this twin system is quite amazing in that the Earth is subject to three-dimensional time. The Earth is subject to linear time. That's how we function here. That's how our bodies function. That's how nature functions, linear time. Okay? But the other side is not bound by linear time. And yet, while we cross from one dimension to the other on a regular basis, we experience timelessness on the other side, but what we experience there is meant to be downloaded basically into a linear time system, a three-dimensional linear time system. So we work very hard on the other side, do our homework, play creatively to create things that will ultimately have an outcome on the Earth. Okay? You see what I'm saying? It's really quite amazing. All right. So we have access to both of these, but these two things were created intentionally. So this is not indicative of what the entire universe is like. Okay? You cannot really generalize what we have here to the rest of the universe all that much. Okay. So let's look at the intentional part of the situation. Let's look at linear time. Let's look at the dimensions involved. Three-dimensionality is the major factor here. It's what we see, but multidimensionality is what we see on the other side. Okay, now let's look back at that story that I talked about, okay, where I got booted out of the other side. Why do you think I got booted out? You know, do you think it was me? You think that guy was just like, oh, get this hysterical creature out of here? Well, it wasn't me. It was my vibration. And I've come to realize, after years more experience since that story occurred, that dimensions are created to be compatible with certain vibrations. Okay? Sometimes they are timeless, sometimes they have linear time, sometimes they have all different kinds of time systems, but there's an intention that each dimension function in a specific way, okay, and it has certain properties. Now, when it's set up and we rush over to that cool new dimension, we have to be aware that we have to vibrate in a way that is congruent with the dimension, okay? So if we all decide that we're going to vibrate A and we're going to truck on over to dimension X and we're going to start vibrating A in dimension X will collapse. Okay? You have to vibrate X in dimension X or it will collapse. Okay? It is set up to support vibration X. And there's an intention behind it. All right, so with that in mind, it was my vibration of three-dimensional human, reptilian brain-centered terror of vulnerability and mortality that I was bringing with me into the other side. Well, the other side is 4 and 5D. The other side is 4 and 5D. Okay, if I bring my three-dimensional baggage with me and vibrate it all crazy out of control, the other side is in danger of collapsing as a dimension. Okay, my 3D stuff will collapse that dimension. So that's why that guy needed to boot me out as soon as possible, because I was creating an earthquake over there with my junk, my garbage, my baggage. Okay, so the moral of the story is, if we are going to expand into 5D consciousness, then we will be compatible with a five-dimensional dimension, right? A context which is set up for five-dimensional consciousness will support us. Okay? However, if we bring our 3D stuff the way that I did, and I pack my bags and I bring all my baggage with me into 5D, 5D is either going to spit me out or 5D will collapse. And I'll tell you, you really can't get to 5D if you are clinging to your 3D baggage like it's your identity. That is not compatible with fifth dimension. Okay? So if you look back on my other video, What is 5D? And it talks about what is compatible with 5D. That's what you're going to need to have if you want to expand your consciousness into 5D and live in a dimension that is 5D compatible. So leave your 3D baggage behind and let's head on outwards to 5D. Okay? As always, please leave your questions and your comments. I'd like to hear from you. I want to thank you for being here. We'll see you next time at the table. Take care.